If you want joinery that has a suction pop and to learn a bunch of other cool techniques, we're going to be covering that all in today's Workbench build that also includes some awesome built-in storage, so sit back and let's dive into the build. So to get started, I'm pulling some white ash that I got from the lumber yard out, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the legs. And my new Bosch sliding miter saw is making quick work of breaking down this thick lumber. These legs are going to end up at a dimension of 4 by 4 inches in its cross section, so I'm starting off with some 12-quarter white ash to get these legs glued up. And after ripping those to a little over 4 inches to leave for some final milling and dimensioning after the glue up, I can go ahead and spread some Titebond 3 and get these paneled up. I go ahead and come through with a large putty knife before the glue is fully hardened because it makes it way easier to get that squeeze out taken care of now. Okay, so day one on the bench, things look good until you get here. Yeah, so basically got cold way quicker than I thought, and this wood glue can't cure in those low temperatures, so went ahead and took it inside to glue up the legs for the workbench. So I'll continue to do this, and we'll be back out in the garage, hopefully in the warmth tomorrow. All right, so we've got these massive beams glued up now. These are all about 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and they've all been jointed on one edge and one face, so we're ready to move to the planer. What I'm gonna do is get them cleaned up because they're all varying in dimension, get them cleaned up to a constant size. Then I'll take them through consistently at the same time till we get to that final dimension of 4 inches. So got a lot of planing to do, so let's get into it. You'll see here that before ripping them to exactly 4 inches, I get them just a little bit over so that I can come through with a final pass where it's not doing a complete cut, and it makes a way cleaner edge and reduces burning. And then I decided to just creep up on that 4 inches using the planer because I can get a really accurate cut with this and take off just a few thousandths at a time. Finally, once they're at width, I can cut them on the miter saw to length. Here I'm just laying out for the mortises. I want these really accurate so I can follow the plans exactly, so I use a combination of a wheel marking gauge and a marking knife to get these laid out on the 4 legs.
Now don't be intimidated by my use of a mortiser here. I got this machine recently, so of course I wanted to put it to use, but I'll put a link here at the top of the screen where you can go to my old Workbench build where I show exactly how to do these mortises by using a Forstner bit and hand chisels, something everyone has access to, so check that out if you want to learn it that way. You can see here how I go about getting that mortising chisel exactly lined up with the marking lines, and this is something I kind of discovered on my own, but I think is a really great technique, and that is to remove the actual bit from the chisel and just use those sharp corners to line it up and set your hard stops. Once you do that, you can remove the workpiece and just put the bit back in because it's really easy to put that in, and then you know your knives are lined up exactly with the marking lines.
Okay, so day 4 here, we've got 2 more big boards here. These are going to be the stretchers for the workbench, and you can see here we've got the base legs all done, all these massive mortises all complete. They look really good, and the mortising machine made really quick work of that. So yeah, it turned out really good, and we got a lot of tenons to get going with, so let's dive in and form some tenons.
So I'm continuing with the white ash here for the base, again because it's a good hard dense wood, but it comes at a low cost, so I can get away with using the hardwood without paying a fortune. So I start with some 8/4 lumber and start by getting that milled up. So I'm using the technique here to cut tenons that I just covered in a separate video. It's really quick and easy to do, and this shows you how to do it with just a crosscut sled and a standard blade. So go check that out if you're looking to repeat this technique yourself. This tenon here for the upper stretcher is sort of asymmetric, and that's because the mortises at the top actually merge with the top of the legs. If you look at the plans, you'll see that. So that's why we're getting that shoulder put in place. And this step here you'll only have to do on the upper stretcher that's going to have the vise, and that's because the vise needs some clearance to get over the stretcher. So you make both parts the same, but on this one you just rip it to the width shown in the plans, and other than that it's pretty simple. Here I'm drilling some pilot holes and counterboring them to allow for putting some screws through these upper stretchers in order to attach the top later on. covering some of these finishing details before I get to the glue up, because adding these chamfers, doing the sanding, and even putting finish on becomes tricky once they're glued together, so it's easy just to handle them just as individual parts at this point. So this first glue up is just of the two side assemblies, and it's really nice because you can do these separately from the rest of the build, and it really takes a lot of pressure off by splitting up the glue ups into several steps.
You can see I just got these massive sides glued up, so they are looking really good, and they are so heavy and strong. This thing's gonna be an absolute tank, just like my current workbench where I went extra thick on everything. So yeah, we've got these side assemblies done, and the next step is to mill up the last bit of wood here. We're gonna be making these into the long stretchers. So yeah, we got a lot of milling to do, so let's go ahead and keep going. We've got the long stretchers all cut out here, cut to length and milled down to size. So the next step is to put the tenons on these. Now, I already showed you guys my method for doing tenons, and I don't want to bore you with doing that again. I'm just going to do them at the table saw. It's probably going to take me about a half hour, but I'm going to get these tenons cut and we'll skip back.
With all the joints tested for fit, I go ahead and clean up the floor here so that I've got a nice clean flat surface to do the bigger glue up here, which is going to be attaching the two side assemblies together. This one is pretty straightforward. You just need to make sure you have some long, strong clamps, which I've got here, and otherwise it's just a matter of putting some glue on those mortise and tenons and hammering them home.
Okay, so it's about a week later here, and the bench here, the base is done. It looks really fantastic. It's got boiled linseed oil for the finish, which is just a nice natural finish, and it looks good. And if we go outside here, you can see in the van here, we've got these massive pieces of hard maple here. So this is 8/4 hard maple. This is going to be for the workbench top, and I'm really excited to get going and get this finished. So yeah, we'll bring this in, get it broken down, milled up, and get these glue ups going.
So the reason I'm going with the hard maple for the top instead of the ash like the rest of the build is that I want a nice light surface with no grain or figure so that I can easily find things on the bench when I'm using it. And to be honest, this hard maple wasn't that much more expensive than the ash, and I think it looks a lot better. Here I'm just milling and planing all this hard maple for the top, and again, this is pretty repetitive from what we've done for the rest of the build, but when you're building a workbench and starting with a bunch of rough lumber, this is kind of the process you have to go through. Here I'm getting them all ripped to a little over 3 inches because we're looking for a final dimension of 3 inches for the top. So going to be a lot of gluing up here to get this put together, but you can see here getting them lined up and matching the grain for the top. All right, all these hard maple boards are now cut to 3.5 inches because I'll be milling that down to the final bench top thickness later, but yeah, these all need to be actually milled flat and square, so got a lot of planing and a lot of joining. I'm probably going to skip over that and just jump straight to the glue up, so yeah, let's just get to the glue up. I want to take a quick second and first of all say thank you for checking out this video. I appreciate the support, and now as I look forward to the new year, one of my main goals here is to take my video making and my furniture making and my tool design to be my full-time thing. It's my passion and I really want to make that happen, so I can't do that without your guys' support. So if you're enjoying this video, be sure to leave a comment below what you think and give this video a like. Additionally, subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me over on my Instagram. That's going to really help as I try to extend my reach here. Probably the best way you guys can support me is if you want to give this bench a build yourself. I have full plans available on my Etsy. It's going to include the solid model, digital plans, as well as the STLs for the cleats and the DXF for the laser cut template. And if you don't have access to those tools, I'll have those solid objects sold separately on my Etsy if you want to pick them up. So again, guys, thank you for your support, and I hope you'll continue to support me as we move forward.
Here we are, our final day here on the workbench, at least kind of real day. I've got the bench ready to do the final glue up on the top here. You can see I put tape on all the glue up faces here because I really don't want to have to deal with a ton of glue squeeze out because I'm getting super close to being at 3 inches in thickness, and that's the final thickness, and I still need to do final flattening. So yeah, final glue up, and we're finally gonna have this top done. So let's go ahead and get it in the clamps.
So as you can see, I had more audio problems here, so I'm recording this after the fact, but here I'm just discussing that I brought the top to a local cabinet shop where they ran it through their wide belt sander. It only costs about $40 and it comes out dead flat, super accurate, and it's close to being sanded at a finished grade. So all I have to do is come over with some 220 and then I can continue on to the next steps. I'm doing a joint method here to get these long edges cut to the proper lengths, and I'm using a track saw to get through most of the depth, but because it's 3 inches, I can't do that all with just the track saw. So then I turn around and use a flush trim bit on the router and reference the part I just cut with the track saw to go ahead and trim it all to the same width. And that worked really well. It just required a little bit of sanding to smooth out the seam, but this is a really good technique if you're looking to cut something this thick. So I'm using a 3D printed template here to route out a little recess that I'll put my emblem in. I made it out of yellow heart on the laser cutter, and I think it'll be a good way to remember the year this bench was made, because I'm hoping that this bench is going to last many years to come. I'm drilling the dog holes in the workbench top here using a 3/4 inch Forstner bit and a drill guide. Once I have those going all the way through, which takes a bit of effort, I just come through and add a little chamfer for the top just to allow things to slide in easier and also provide a nicer look.
So I've got the bench inside my house here. You can see the base looks really amazing, and I really love how it looks. Now for the casters, I'm doing a new type of caster. These are from Bennington Manufacturing. And what I like here is that it's color instructions, it's really clear, and he includes everything you need, including the pilot bit and the driver and the screws. So everything you need to install, it's right there. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get these casters put on so that this thing's mobile before I attach the top.
So since completing this workbench, I've been super impressed with these casters, and I actually have an affiliate link below that if you use that to get your casters, it'll have a small bounce back to my channel and will help me out. So be sure to check that out in the description. They're really good casters.
All right, so if all goes according to plan here and it's all in right, then all I have to do is undo 2 little nylon screws on each of these wheels and we should be good to go. See, there's a little set screw. I'm just gonna take that out. There we go. So what makes these casters unique is that right now the bench is on all 4 feet, so it's rock solid, and most replaceable casters or workbench casters you have to do individually, and the bench kind of raises at a weird conky thing, but here I just lift up, and these first 2 engage, they're spring loaded, it's a patented design, and then just lift up here, and just like that, the whole workbench is mobile, and to drop it down, just lift up, and set down, and lift up, and sit down, and we're back on all 4s. Pretty awesome. Whew.
So before moving on to the interior organization of the workbench, I'm just making a quick jaw here to go in that vise. Again, it's the Schoberg adjustable vise, and it's pretty easy to install. There's installation videos out there, and so I'm not going to cover it extensively here, but I'm just adding some chamfers and cleaning it up. It's the same hard maple as the rest, and then from there I can get onto the drawers. So I use a lot of the Festool Sustainers for tool organization because I think it's a really great system, and it's just a system I've adopted and chosen to go with. So I'm going to be making these drawers specifically dimensioned to fit those sustainers. More than that, the drawers are going to be full extension and have 3D printed cleats on top that go on with a laser cut template I've designed, and that allows you to actually lock the sustainers into place in the drawer, and it works really nicely. So you'll see that in a minute here, and again, I'm going to have that in the plans and available for purchase on my Etsy. So the drawer construction is really simple here. It's purely utilitarian, and so I'm just using some leftover hard maple for the sides and doing simple butt joints to put these drawers together. I'm starting with a pin nail and then following them up with some screws, and I'm using 1/4 inch MDF for the top and also for the template. Once those are done, I can put them in and see how they fit. These are the 3D printed cleats I was talking about, and the STL files for these, as well as the DXF files for the laser cut templates, which are the MDF ones you see here, are going to be offered and available in the full Workbench plans on my Etsy. Also, if you don't have access to those tools and just want to buy the cleats and the templates separately, I'll have them available too, and you can pick those up if you want to do this yourself. The last step here is just to screw on some simple drawer fronts, again just using some of the leftover ash. It's just to clean up the look a little bit, and with that I can bring it in and throw it into the Workbench, and that wraps up this project. So I'm really happy with how this turned out, guys. I hope you enjoyed it too, and will check out the plans and build it yourself. Be sure to like this video, leave a comment, and follow me on YouTube and on Instagram. I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and finish this up with some final shots.